Okay, another video on the subject of market anarchy. Yeah, Luke did this, part 2, 3, and 4 of his nonsense, so I figure I had to respond. I'll try to keep this to a minimum. I mean, I won't, maybe only do one of these economic style videos, every 4 or 5 days at no more than that. It's responding to nothing. It's almost embarrassing to have to respond. I mean, it's embarrassing to take any of this seriously, but it is out there. I mean, these nuts. I mean, there's just so many things, that just catch you hear it and you say, he didn't just say that, did he? He made some comparison. There was one point he made a comparison to Amazing Randy and his bounty for a paranormal proof, and how it has increased to $1 million and the rest of it, and how that's really taken care of the fringe thing or whatever. And last time I saw cable a couple of months ago, there were whole networks that all they did was stupid paranormal shows, for Christ's sakes. They're all over the place. Got paranormal detective shows and paranormal, seeing ghost shows, and it's, there's no evidence that reality has sunk into anybody's head. So, I mean, that was just kind of funny. But anyway, let's get to the funnier things. Look, there are certain things he says that just, you say, okay, this guy is not even talking seriously. He's not thinking seriously. He's not even talking seriously. I mean, he deals with the issue of national defense by bringing up the founding father idea of, everybody having a gun, and and everybody has a gun, and that doesn't deal with the reality we live in now. You can't defend yourself with a gun. It's not a national defense, a gun. How many, what good does it do you? In a world where there's other people have F-16s and, stealth bombers and all this other crap, what good's a gun going to do you? And so apparently by his theory, all national defense secrets would be open to anybody to compete, and so anybody could build whatever they wanted, and everybody would have to have the information, presumably, but you couldn't have a monopoly. Nobody could have a monopoly on defense contracting. So yeah, and so, I might have the F-16 in my backyard, and another guy that I'm, is part of my clan, or my tribe, or my mob, here we are. He makes the accusation of mob rule, that democracy represents mob rule. That's all this stupid anarchy would lead to. We'd all become part of a mob. We'd choose what mob we wanted to be part of, and that mob would use all kinds of means to compete with all these other mobs, and it would be just insane how much waste and unproductivity there would be just in the competition alone. Just think about how states used to compete with each other, and the games they would play. It's wasted energy would be just a preposterous amount of wasted energy, just in trying to protect your own turf. Just silly. But anyway, so let's get back to the point. I mean, if you're going to take this at all seriously, there's got national defense has to be a priority. You can't just sit there and, or even your mob defense has to be a priority, and to say that everybody having a gun is going to provide you security is just so ludicrous. And to think that all these mobs could be armed to the teeth, they could have chemical weapons, who cares? Any weapon of mass destruction, who cares? Yeah, you're right. No one's going to stop you anyway, right? There's not going to be any authority powerful enough to stop you once you have your canisters of mustard gas. But anyway, just ludicrous. I mean, not even close to a rational statement. To think that people will voluntarily pay for anything is just idiotic. So anyway, it's almost like, why go through the rest of this crap? Because like I say, it doesn't deal with any of the real world issues, bankruptcy. Just think about, so let's just talk about what civilization has brought us, what our national government, when you think how little crime there really is, how little, I mean, industries don't go, let's say if I was in an industry and it's dependent on infrastructure, gas lines or some other thing. I mean, how easy is it to fuck up a guy, like say if I'm a competitor, I mean, I can spend $10 million to compete with my competitor. I can spend $10,000, hire some thug to go out and drill a hole in the wrong place and fuck up one of their gas mains. I mean, which one is going to be the choice of the business? We know which one's going to be the choice if there's no law to stop it. If there's not going to be any force that's going to be capable of imposing real accountability. We know that's going to be the tactic of choice. And you know, there's so many, we're vulnerable in so many ways, and to think that there would be a world where, like I said, these businesses can compete without any real game rules. I mean, just think about what happened with the Tylenol poisoning. I mean, somebody puts a little bit of poison in a couple of bottles of Tylenol, and it costs the company $10 zillion and creates a national crisis. And we're still vulnerable to that. I mean, don't be fooled by your little popping jars, you know, because if somebody wants to fuck with the security that's on bottles and jars now, it's so fucking easy to do. I mean, and just think, you know, if people have this incentive to do it, you know, economic incentive to do it, they're going to. And that's the only thing that's saving our ass now, is that there's, you know, first there's law, and second, that has some chance of catching the asshole who does something like that. You know, national, federal, organized to some extent law, and you know, and yeah, business will be held accountable for you know, that kind of terrorism. You know, but in a lawless world, you know, you're never going to know, you know, if you couldn't trust anything you got from a competing mob, and so the only business you could ever do was within your own little circle. I mean, that was what it would come down to. So just think of the inefficiency. There'd be, you know, separate companies operating within these little regions of turfdom, these little tribes that we would become. And they'd all have separate infrastructure, all have separate businesses, all have separate... I mean, it'd be preposterous, the amount of inefficiency that'd be created by that. Because there's no way that commerce would freely just flow through all these hostile entities, because they would become hostile. Let's not pretend they wouldn't become hostile. They would. So anyway, it's daydreaming. It's silly. I don't even know. It's not even. You know, you think if people are going to daydream, they would daydream in some sort of, within some logical, rational framework, where they're even seeing a world that's better. And I don't know how you can even. You know, I don't know what kind of delusionary thinking you have to think that, you know, there's some world where this works. You know, where everybody just loves being, all the people that get exploited just love being exploited, and then you can all become rich, you know, except for, of course, the masses who are the exploitees. And I guess that's really how they really don't even think of people as a collective. They think of they really do think in terms of an us and them. And presumptively they'd be part of the us, you know, the people in control of production. They have such a high opinion of themselves that they don't imagine it, even a possibility that they could end up on some lower rung of that ladder, you know, and be the people getting fucked. And that's the real joke here, is that it's all really about ego. People with preposterously huge egos think they're going to win the lottery, so to speak, think they're going to be the next Bill Gates or the next whatever, and they're going to, you know, they're going to be the trillionaires. And that's why they want that option, is because they just know that there's no way that their magnificence can't be discovered, and that it's no way that their brilliance will at all be suppressed, and that they're definitely heading for this magnificent future where they're going to be zillionaires. And so that's why they have to leave that open. You know, but who else with a rational mind sees any purpose in the existence of a billionaire, or sees any purpose, you know, productive purpose in creating legacy wealth? I mean, to how is that in any rational construction of an economic system? How does it make any sense at all? I mean, I've used the example before, but why would you waste Harvard educations on people that have no motivation to work? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, what's the point of educating the kid? What's the point of doing any of this stuff if they're really not going to be incredibly motivated? I mean, if they've already got the money, what's the incentive? I mean, it happens a lot, and you can see it happen in sports and different things. I mean, these guys make a ton of money, and they become half the player they used to be. Because yeah, it's really hard for a guy who's got 20 million bucks in the bank to give a damn, to care enough. Well, anyway. And then the inverse is always true too. You see people who have preposterous amounts of money, and they keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, and you say to yourself, why they keep pushing? And that's because, yeah, it's not about the money for them. It's about the ego thing, and it's about doing their best, and it's about being somebody, and all the rest of these words we can throw out of our mouths. Their obsession with being, if there's somebody ahead of them, of